What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the controversy around Sony's latest PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 release, Gran Turismo 7, continues with a recent update that changed up some of the microtransactions, but also outright broke the game. We're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about an update for Nintendo Switch Online that added new Sega Genesis games, and we also got a few more details around the situation with the Initiative and Perfect Dark. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with more trademark news. This seems to keep happening actually over the last week or so, just trademarks everywhere. Well, this one continues the tale of GoldenEye potentially making a return. We can see this over on VGC, where it says a trademark that allows the term GoldenEye to be used for downloadable electronic game software has been granted a second extension this week amidst speculation around a 007 GoldenEye HD remaster. Now, I will continue to say, I think GoldenEye is actually going to happen. Like, I think it could be released on Nintendo 64's online expansion pack service as just the 64 game, but I do believe that Microsoft is going to release it onto the Xbox, maybe even into Game Pass. That would be something there, with that remaster that leaked online anyway. I mean, there have been a lot of rumors going on right now that some deal was set up in place, and I know that Amazon just recently closed the deal on MGM, who did have partial say in the whole GoldenEye thing, but I feel like that wouldn't have affected any of this since that's actually been ongoing for, I think, over a year now. So the trademark, yes, it is technically part of it, but I do believe we're going to see this GoldenEye remaster sometime in the next month or two. Cross my fingers that it ends up being that remaster that I already played, because it was really good, and if you enable that online, it would be incredible to play. Also, Wave 1 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC is now live, and if you missed it, here are the different tracks that are being added. Now, there are two different cups they have with Golden Dash Cup and Lucky Cat Cup. And remember, there are 6 waves total. This is just wave 1 of that pass that they have included with that expansion pack, by the way. So if you have the Nintendo 64 expansion pack that you've already bought, these should just be available to you today to go ahead and download and start racing around in. And obviously, people are pointing at things like Coconut Mall, which is a classic from the Wii. But looking at this overall, the visuals that people are seeing now do appear to be improved from the original trailer, which we had kind of talked about being a possibility, as that seems to happen with a lot of these different tracks. Now, most of these are also pulled from Tour, apparently, but either way, I have the Nintendo 64 expansion pack, so I'll just be downloading them and checking them out. It just took a lot longer than I think any of us expected to actually get new content from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And yeah, it'll probably prolong the idea of Mario Kart 9, but looking at how the tracks are being added now, it's at least exciting to look forward to something new for Mario Kart. Oh, and we did get a release date for the new Resident Evil series heading to Netflix. We had a couple of promotional images put up. You can see, for example, here with the Netflix series Resident Evil, July 14th. Now, there's a lot of speculation exactly around what this is going to be, and we can see some vials and even some pills there with T-Virus, the Umbrella Corporation, and I guess some of the pill called Joy. So, hey, if you're really, really into Resident Evil, like the backstory and the lore, let me know what we're looking at here with Joy, with that pill. But I feel like we just constantly have new Resident Evil shows, whether it's TV or movies that come out. And the movies they were popcorn flicks, I guess. They weren't incredible cinema or anything, but if you were a fan of Resident Evil, it's just fun to kind of check out and then move on from. So I'm hoping this Netflix series is good, but there we go. We'll have to wait till over the summer to check it out, but it's going to get thrown into Netflix. I already have Netflix, so I guess I'll check it out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Gran Turismo 7, a game that controversy has been following for quite a while. Basically, ever since they announced that it would be an always online game, and that was the whole thing, and then they added in microtransactions after reviews dropped, and we realized, wow, you have to either grind for a long time or spend a lot of money to get some of these top tier cars. Well, it looks like they pushed a patch, and the idea here is to change around some of the amounts. Well, there were some headlines going around like this one from VGC that when you read it, it kind of is funny the way they frame it here, where they say, following microtransaction criticism, Gran Turismo 7's latest patch makes it harder to earn cars. They have a breakdown here, which you can see of the amounts that have been altered and changed from where it was before the patch to after the patch, with the new credit amounts amounts that you can earn being bolded. And some were describing this as a balance patch. But they did lower the amount of credits, I would say, in more tracks than they raised them in, because they did raise some of the amount of credits that you earn. For example, in World Touring Car 800, it went from 5,000 credits to 70,000 credits. I mean, it's a pretty substantial jump. But in other ones, like Dirt Champions Fisherman's Ranch, went from 65,000 credits down to 30,000 credits. They just chopped that completely in half. And the game was already pretty grind heavy in order to just buy a car, and they do cycle these cars in and out. So you may see a car that you really want, but realize, ooh, that's gone in like a couple of days. I'd better start racing a lot. Or, of course, you can just buy credits. And they do it in that case of you can't just buy the car. You have to buy packs of credits. Like, for example, 100,000 credits for $2.49, all the way up to 2 million credits for $19.99. And as we had gone over before, VGC points out that there are some cars that are over the 3 million credit mark now, which would end up costing you like $40 because you have to buy 2 packs of the $20 for the 2 million credits. And it also costs credits, of course, to upgrade the cars and all these different things. But you can technically race to get there. It's going to take you a long time, especially if you want to buy multiple cars that cost in the millions of credits. But there was one thing that was really annoying, because sure, the microtransactions, you can live without them. Like, you don't have to buy them. But if your single player game doesn't work because there's an issue with the servers, that's a legitimate problem. And in fact, all day yesterday, the game just didn't work. Like, I tried logging in several times just to get a couple of races in here and there because, well, you got to grind away for credits, but I couldn't. And this seemed to be a serious outage that was ongoing after this update that changed and updated all of these microtransaction values. If you went online to Twitter, it was trending all over the place that GT7 was down, and everyone was just venting frustration. And yeah, that is quite frustrating when your $70 game, sure, it's packed with microtransactions, but it doesn't work because they have maintenance that just had to be extended. And in that case, you're kind of left with just a $70 coaster. And I feel like that's something most people can agree on. Like, no one likes DRM, especially online DRM for single player games. I mean, this is something you just can't do anything without those servers. And what I think we got to look at here is a glimpse into the future as to what happens with your latest purchase when servers are discontinued. And that's something we've mentioned before, and I'm sure it will come back to this, because car games tend to get delisted and removed in general because of these licenses running up with these different car manufacturers. So here's hoping by the time you see this recording that GT7 is back up, because it's still not up right now. I would like to play this big new release from Polyphony and Sony, the one that I spent $70 on. So crossing my fingers, hoping that they can get those servers up for my single-player racing game. Next up, let's talk about some new details that have emerged around the Initiative and Perfect Dark situation, where we had previously covered in a video that about half the number of staff who had been working at the Initiative had left over the course of about 12 months, and it seemed to all line up really well with Crystal Dynamics coming on board to work on Perfect Dark. Well, in a recent podcast from Windows Central Gaming, Jez Corden went over a couple of things that he had heard from the different staff members there, and also very trusted sources, as he says. And you can check this video out. I'll leave it down in the sources if you want to hear a bit more about this. But the biggest thing here is, according to Jez, there is a disagreement over how to proceed and staff Perfect Dark, with a lot of this being two different groups. One saying they want to hire on a bunch of people, and then others saying want to stay small. So it's kind of this clashing of ideas, whether you stay small and agile in order to make decisions quickly, or you get a large group of developers together, continue to hire on, maybe even outsource a ton in order to get the work done quickly, or make larger games than maybe you were originally anticipating. It almost seems like this was going to be a smaller studio than what we were all envisioning here, to where they were going to work on smaller scale games. And it was definitely built up to be this big Sony Santa Monica-esque studio. So yeah, we're expecting like something that would compete with The Last of Us, or something to compete with God of War, anything like that, right? Well, according to them, the second group wanted to bring in Crystal Dynamics and the other studios would bring in support studios, all of this. And unfortunately, it looks like for one of the groups, they didn't get their way, and that's why you had this mass exodus of about half the staff members. And essentially, the staff that stayed on board were the ones that believed in the method of bring in Crystal Dynamics and we'll work with them to get it done, which again, makes sense for Daryl Gallagher there at the top, who had been running Crystal Dynamics before that. Yeah, bringing a studio that he's familiar with. My biggest question has been, though, what happens when Perfect Dark is done and then Crystal Dynamics just kind of moves on then back to Square? I still think there's a chance that Microsoft eyes up Crystal Dynamics and basically just buys them from Square, because Square's making some weird decisions as it is, and maybe they are winding down their idea of Western developed like live service style games like the Avengers. That just did not work out for them. So maybe in their mind, hey, you know what, we'll get what we can for Crystal Dynamics and kind of move on from there. But this initiative Perfect Dark situation is very fascinating to, I think, the gaming world right now. And obviously we're going to be keeping up to date on what happens here. And hopefully Perfect Dark comes out the other end looking really good. But obviously there's a lot of doubt around it right now. Next up, let's talk about an update for Nintendo Switch Online, bringing some new Sega Genesis games into the mix. We can see this post up over on Twitter from Nintendo of America saying 3 Sega Genesis games have just been made available for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members. They list the 3 here. We have Light Crusader, Super Fantasy Zone, Alien Soldier. They ask, which are you playing first? So I'm only really familiar with one of these out of the list, which it is a good addition, by the way, based on how much it goes for online right now. But like I took a look at Light Crusader. It kind of looks like this isometric top-down action RPG. And then you also have Super Fantasy Zone, which is like a kind of a shoot-'em-up style game. But Alien Soldier is an interesting one because this is a game that released on the Sega Channel back in the day, and it wasn't even very long because I had the Sega Channel and I actually did not get this one. So my Sega Channel was kind of spotty as it was, like it only worked half the time, and when it did, it was amazing. They put like demos on there at times you could try out. They even split the Mortal Kombat roster up. So you had to do either Mortal Kombat 3-1 or Mortal Kombat 3-2, and so you couldn't have certain fighters fight against each other. It was a weird time then, but it was really cool because it was through like your cable jack and it was like on-demand gaming. But certain titles did not come out physically in the US. Now, in other regions they did, like Alien Soldier came out, I know, in Japan. And if you look this one up on eBay, it's hundreds of dollars for the copy. And the game itself is actually really cool. Visually, it's one of the more impressive Sega Genesis games. The main character being a very large sprite that looks very good on the 16-bit system, but the gameplay is really good. And people will kind of compare it to things like Gunstar Heroes, other like fast-paced shooter-style games, platformers in particular, and this one's up there. So I would certainly check this one out, if anything, because it's sort of a rare find as it is. I mean, people are doing like reproduction carts and stuff. It was on the Wii Virtual Console from what I remember, but having it just kind of thrown into the expansion pack tier that you may already have access to as it is, it's something cool to just try out and see what you may have missed back in the day on the Sega Channel. So good stuff there. I'm actually going to dive back into Alien Soldier for a bit of nostalgia myself. In our last bit of news, let's talk about that Sony State of Play that happened yesterday. It was like 15 or 16 minutes of them going over the game and showing off gameplay for Hogwarts Legacy. And I'll admit, I'm just not really into Harry Potter at all. So I can look at this and say, you know what? If you're really into Harry Potter, this is probably the game you've been waiting forever to get your hands on, but we can see some of the state of play here. And the one thing I'll at least say is they're attempting to make it so that if you're not that familiar with Harry Potter, you can still get into this game because it's not going to follow the storyline that you've probably grown accustomed to over the many years and years of Harry Potter lore being built out, as you will have an original character with their own storyline. Apparently they say they're coming into Hogwarts as like a 5th-year student, which is unusual on its own. But then they showed off a pretty large world, a bunch of characters. The battle system, yes, it's spell-oriented. I don't really think you're going to go around like punching people or anything there. And I like the idea of this season system that they'll have where it'll change between winter, spring, summer, kind of dynamically as you're playing through the game. Some appear to be kind of let down by the visuals, but it's still a cross-gen game. I mean, they showed the PS4 and the PS5 logo right there, and you gotta remember, even though it feels like we should be out of it, we're still in that cross-gen period. Now, the thing I was a little surprised about here is they didn't have a release date ready. I thought that was the big buildup and the big moment at the end. Here it is, available over the summer, or there's like August or something. No, it's actually holiday 2022. At least that's what they're leaving us with right now, which is strange because we know that Gotham Knights is happening in October. So there's me two big releases from WB like right next to each other. Now, Hogwarts Legacy could come out in December even. They could push it to there, or maybe they just go, hey, Gotham Knights, that's October, and then you have Hogwarts Legacy, that's November, and that's just sort of how we're rolling with this. I guess they figure maybe the people who are really into Batman aren't as into Harry Potter, so they can kind of place them right next to each other without too much overlap. Either way, though, they're certainly gonna be stacked this holiday for WB. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what's the next system you want to see added to Nintendo Switch Online? Look, I saw the comments, and a lot of people were saying, where's the GameCube? Why aren't you talking about GameCube? Where's the GameCube choice? Look, I know everyone's gonna pick GameCube, and to be real, Nintendo's not adding GameCube to Nintendo Switch Online. They're just gonna sell them to you again at $40 a piece. So I figured Game Boy Advance would get most of the votes. It did. I was actually curious about the systems beyond just those Game Boy selections with the Virtual Boy, Neo Geo, and TurboGrafx 16. And most of you chose Virtual Boy over Neo Geo, which, hey, maybe it's the weird factor. It's like, you know, what would that look like? How would Nintendo handle that? Would it work with the Labo VR? And would they be able to get more than 3 weeks of releases out of the Virtual Boy's, 9 games? You know what? Just for the weird factor, yes, I'm on board. I would like to see Virtual Boy added as well. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from the Germ saying, I own over 20 full-sized arcade and pinball machines. When Arcade 1-Up first came out, I thought they looked cool at just $299. However, was hesitant about purchasing one. I finally got pushed over the edge, being a big Simpsons fan, walking into Walmart last week when one was mismarked for $315. I immediately purchased it being, it was $300 off the regular price. Yeah, that Simpsons cabinet is really expensive, and about the same price as a Nintendo Switch. I think that's the idea here is a $300 arcade cabinet actually looks like an impulse buy because it's like, wow, arcade cabinets are supposed to be like over $1,000 for the originals. And this one is like this smaller one, yes, but it's new and it's $300, sometimes even less than that if you find them on clearance. But when you walk in and you see one for $1,000, you're kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. That was Arcade 1-Up's big selling point, is they came in at an affordable and almost impulse buy territory, and they're kind of losing that now. So if they're not gonna have that impulse buy territory with pricing, to me, they gotta blow us away with the quality and the interesting new features, and I just don't think they're doing that yet. But hey, maybe Time Crisis can turn things around. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the whole thing around Gran Turismo 7 right now. Yes, the microtransactions being altered with this latest update, but really the game itself, a single player racing game, being broken because the game was pulled down for maintenance. How do you feel about that, especially for someone who invested the $60 or even $70 into it? And then what about the new details around the Initiative and Perfect Dark, and then Alien Soldier or any of these other Genesis games? Are you trying them out this weekend? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.